Just a reminder of all the notable Americans, Timothy Weah as well, and Serginho Dest also in there. Tony, obviously the World Cup is coming up quicker than we think. We just had the draw from Washington, D.C. last week, didn't we? How important is it to see nights like these where the Americans are really showing out in Europe?
Yeah, really good to see Balogun, right? Because, I mean, he had some injury problems last year, right? It didn't go well with the national team, and now he's scoring some goals. One thing we do need is a guy who can score goals in the World Cup. It looks like we've got two. Look, Ricardo Pepi scored goals his entire time in Europe, or at least at PSV, right? So we know he's also been bitten by the injury bug, right, last year. And it'd be nice to have two guys that are going into the World Cup in pretty good form. I don't know that we're going to get a number 9 that plays 3 times 90 minutes in the World Cup. And even if one guy starts, you know, we're going to need a guy for 20, 30 minutes to come on the field. Ricardo Pepi's done a really good job. You were mentioning those type of goals is what Ricardo Pepi does, right? He shows up at the right place at the right time. How
do you rank those 3 that we would see tonight across Europe? Obviously, you mentioned Flo Balogun. Pepi is in there as well in terms of the US and the depth in the roster. If the World Cup started tomorrow, who would you have up top?
Well, Balogun would be the number 9 for sure. If you're ranking those 3 sort of getting to the World Cup, I think you had them in order probably, right? I think it was Flo, Weston, and then Ricardo Pepi after that, right? And they'll all play an important role. Look, Weston, though, is still trying to get into the good graces of Mauricio Pochettino at the moment, right? And we don't really know, with this little box in the midfield, we don't really know where he sort of fits in, right? And what Mauricio Pochettino really likes in those 4 positions in the middle of the field. Is he a guy that plays a little bit higher up, which is essentially a double 10? Is he a guy that plays, I like him a little bit deeper. I like the combination with Tyler Adams and Weston Mckennie because McKennie loves to get forward, right? But I think there's still some work for him to do. No doubt for me, I was going to say on the plane. He doesn't have to really, I suppose, get on a plane at some point. We're playing here. But he'll be at SoFi Stadium somewhere in that opening game.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, though, isn't it, for Weston Mckennie? Because even we see that with Juventus. He's so good in so many different positions. It makes it difficult to know where does he rank, Grella.
He's got to be there, though, just his personality alone, right? All the stuff you see about him. And then Spalletti just came out last week, said he's such a fantastic person. That's what makes him such a good player. So you need that guy in the group, I think. And the most difficult moments in the World Cup against the best teams, like tonight, they were second best to Pafos. I know it's hard to believe, but they were second best to Pafos. Pafos hit them on the counter, had so many good chances, 2 or 3 really electric chances. Juventus couldn't break that low block down. Pafos' side, by the way, played 2 games, majority of the games with a man down and still tied 0-0. So Juventus having trouble, who pops up? Weston Mckennie. Juventus having trouble in the big games, who pops up? Weston Mckennie. And by the way, not just with his assist or his tackling to start a counterattack, with goals. It's something that he's not known to do, but not supposed to do. It's not his job when he goes on the field. Bails them out big time tonight. He's going to bail the U.S. out of some big moments as well, and he's a guy that's got to be there for me.
I'm partial to the celebrations, so.
Yeah, the Harry Potter celebrations, the magic wand. This is where he ranks in terms of the most Champions League goals for the men and the men's US men's national team. Christian Pulisic, of course, is at the top, even though Milan aren't in the Champions League this season. And then Weston Mckennie's right behind them. He's actually ahead of Ricardo Pepi, and DeMarcus Beasley is also on there. Sometimes, Laurie, does it feel like Weston Mckennie doesn't necessarily get the credit that he deserves?
I think that's a great way to put it, because that's how I view Weston Mckennie. I think he does so much well, and we just spoke about it here. So sometimes that gets lost in terms of, again, where is he going to fit in the best? Who does he partner with in the midfield? But no doubt, I'm in agreement. He has to be there, one, for his experience. He consistently shows up when it matters the most. And the vibes, like we talked about, you gotta have
vibes
that. Yeah, especially when you have a home World Cup.
He's got a bit of everything, hasn't he? Let's talk about the women's side then, because they also had a couple of US players playing tonight. Here's just a reminder of who we saw in action. Tullis Joyce, we saw Kat Macario, Schrader. What about Lindsay Heaps, though? Created 1 chance. She's such a huge part of the US, isn't she? But also with Lyon.
The captain of the U.S. women's national team, but also just, has been at Lyon for a number of years now. Her competitive nature, her just desire to win and get them back to a Champions League final. And she is really the one that pulls this team along, connects passes, and just is the orchestrator in the midfield.
I think when I was going to Europe years ago and trying to play there, that this is what the Europeans think. They think, okay, well, if we get an American, we know we're going to get a few things. We're going to get an athlete, most likely, right? We're going to get a serious professional. We're going to get a competitor. We're going to get a person that doesn't care. He's not scared. Oh, you don't believe in any of that?
I believe in all of it. I'm saying Grella played in Europe. I'm like,
well, not me.
Hang on.
Not me.
Grella's team thought he was a bartender when he came in the changing room. I'm not kidding. He had a suit on and they were telling him to go and get a drink.
Robbie Savage did me dirty. That's a story for another day. I was just a kid. But it's true. When Europeans get an American player, the first thing they know, besides the fact that they actually can play football really well, they know that they're going to get an unbelievable competitor, big attitude, big personality, and all the Americans, whether it's the women or the men, playing in Europe right now in Champions League football, they deliver on all those fronts.
You agree, Tones? You going to pat the Americans
I agree
on the
with
back?
all the qualities that most European teams think they're going to get. I'm still looking at Grella. He said athlete, competitor.
He said, well, actually, just everything. Perfect.
I'm just with Lindsay Heaps, though. I feel like there's an evolution in her game. Like when I watch her play, right, she looks a little bit different and that partially being in Europe, you'd know better than I would. But when I watch her play with the women's team, a little bit more settled on the ball, a little bit more time on the ball. She looks like an evolved player. And I know there's this tug of war between, do you play in the NWSL or do you go to Europe? Like I'm a fan of sort of the adventure, right? Like I like the adventure of going someplace else and learning a new way of playing. I don't know, am I off base
No,
here?
you're spot on. One thing that's been always clear about Lindsay Heaps is she wants to play football and she wants to test herself amongst the best. That is why she's at Lyon. But one thing about the evolution of her game, and I would say that this has to do with Emma Hayes, the head coach of U.S. Women's National Team, is just really pushing her to continue to be the best captain and leader, but then also, when are you taking your risks? Because we know that Lindsay Heaps is wonderful on the ball. She's savvy, she's creative, and she wants to get forward and score goals herself. But it's about, okay, does the team need this now, or am I just going to connect? And I think that's where we've seen her game evolve the most over the last year and a half.